If you look at an official highway map of Pennsylvania, you'll notice the name of a small town called Centralia. But if you go there today, you'll no longer be able to find any trace of a city. You will only come across an eerie network of empty roads cutting through wild, overgrown weeds. Roads leading nowhere, stairs leading up to vacant patches of land where houses once stood. And if you exit your vehicle, you will immediately be able to smell an acrid, sulfuric haze coming up right from the cracked asphalt. The ground under your feet is quite literally hot to the touch. Beneath this deserted grid of roads, an immense fire has been raging wildly for more than 6 decades. It has traveled across miles of underground tunnels, destroying the natural foundations of the earth and producing harmful fumes that make living impossible. It's important to note that the people responsible for setting the fire in Centralia were neither evil terrorists nor malevolent corporation. It's the story of how local town council members accidentally started an inferno that forced thousands of people to watch their town literally burn alive. In order to comprehend the tragedy of this disaster, it's crucial to take a closer look at what made Centralia so prosperous in the first place: coal. Specifically anthracite coal, which was mined in Centralia since the end of the 19th century. Centralia stood atop one of the richest deposits of high-quality black coal anywhere on Earth. Hundreds of miners would dig through tons of sediment and extract this precious fuel, and the process went on for many decades, until by the mid-20th century, the mining companies decided to shut down their businesses. They left a vast subterranean infrastructure behind, hundreds of miles of interconnected tunnels lying empty under Centralia's town squares, playgrounds, and neighborhoods. Although Centralia no longer enjoyed the economic prosperity it once had, it remained a beautiful place to live in. Its residents loved it and knew all their neighbors. Centralians felt so safe in their community that they never even bothered to lock their doors. That was until May 1962. With the upcoming Memorial Day celebration just a few days away, town council members faced an urgent issue. A local landfill situated right next to the central cemetery was entirely filled up. Not only did it look unsightly, but it produced a repugnant odor. Consequently, they decided on a familiar routine method of disposal. They ordered to start burning the rubbish. On May 27, 1962, the firemen came down to the site. They lit the heap on fire, let it burn out, and flooded it with water to stop the fire. However, that year, it didn't work. The reason is rather obvious. That day, the local authorities didn't follow regulations and forgot to seal the pit with the fireproof clay. That means the bottom of the landfill was now uncovered. The fire had spread into an underground labyrinth. Anthracite coal is known to produce a self-sustaining flame, so the fire continued to spread further. The tunnels beneath Centralia had perfect conditions for it. Tons of oxygen and enough room for the fire to grow and expand. What really turned Centralia into a tragedy is the years of human ignorance following those events. Instead of acknowledging the fire as a deadly threat, the town council attempted to downplay and cover it up. They claimed that the landfill was completely safe. They sent firefighters to the spot and attempted to extinguish the fire, pouring tons of water down into the pit, but it was hopeless. No one dared to confess to the state government about violating environmental laws because doing that would mean declaring the entire town unfit for living. Thus, people continued living and working while surrounded by a fire. At first, it didn't seem particularly dangerous. Slowly but steadily, however, that illusion fell apart. People started experiencing some rather unusual phenomena. People started developing inexplicable headaches. Some women even said that they detected a peculiar sweet aroma coming from their kitchens. What was going on was simple. Their heating systems produced carbon monoxide, which then seeped through the floors into their houses. Soon, even the physical world began to distort. Snow refused to settle in certain areas. The ground was so heated that it melted as soon as it touched the ground. In January, people saw tomatoes growing on trees, the heat baking the soil. Finally, in the summer of 1979, a tragic accident occurred that revealed the true nature of what was happening. The owner of a local gas station checked the fuel supplies in his station and discovered an alarming phenomenon. The temperature of gasoline in his storage tanks reached a dangerous level of 172 degrees Fahrenheit. The underground part of the station, sitting in the middle of town, was close to becoming ignited. At this point, it was obvious that the fire could not be contained anymore. It kept spreading, feeding off the abundant supply of oxygen in the labyrinth. And in 1981, the fire got its first victim. On Valentine's Day, a 12-year-old boy, Todd Domboski, went out to play with his friends in his grandmother's backyard. Suddenly, he fell into a large hole that opened up under his feet. The child managed to hang on to a tree root, but hot fumes of carbon monoxide started filling the hole. His cousin rushed to help him, dragging Todd away right before the bottom of the hole gave in. Upon inspection, government officials reported that the temperature in the hole was dangerously high, reaching 350 degrees Fahrenheit. It was already clear that something needed to be done. The U.S. Congress decided to appropriate $42 million to create barriers in the mines and prevent the fire from expanding. However, However, the fire continued to spread. It proved far too clever and extensive. Every time scientists and engineers tried to block it, the fire simply found another way through. Eventually, they were compelled to give up. In the fall of 1984, the authorities accepted defeat. They decided that it wasn't worth fighting the force which poisoned people with its deadly fumes. The US government offered a buyout price of $42 million to everyone willing to leave their homes. This act of forced evacuation was truly tragic. People who had been neighbors their whole lives suddenly faced the fact that their beloved community was turning into a death trap. Now they were forced to sell out their homes and abandon their lifelong dreams. As a result of demolition, over 500 buildings were destroyed. They dismantled the road leading to the settlement and redirected traffic away. As it turned out, Route 61 itself had cracks along the road and was starting to emit smoke. A handful of elderly people decided to resist the evacuation plan. They fought tooth and nail to retain possession of their property. In the end, the government offered them a deal. They would be allowed to continue living there until the day of their death. There are less than 5 residents remaining in Centralia today. Centralia is a tragic modern tale. Scientists estimate that there is enough coal in the labyrinth to keep the fire burning for another 250 years. It's a chilling demonstration of the consequences of human engineering of the environment. Those who excavated mines hoped to prosper. Those who lit the fire in 1962 wanted to keep their cemeteries clean. Everyone had made perfectly reasonable decisions, taking into account what was going on that day. The problem was that none of them thought about long-term consequences of their actions and how it could affect their surroundings.